Hey everyone, welcome back to the RWP podcast. I've got a business conference I need to go do in Boston. It's across the country, and I thought I would take you with me because I've got some free time, and I thought it would be great if we stopped and spent a night at Walden Pond. So I've got my copy of Walden, and we're going to go for a hike. If you've never been there, I'm going to show you around. It's an incredible place. Let's get after it. All right, I made it to my bed and breakfast. I had a good night of sleep here, and now we're going to get in the car and head over to find some coffee and some breakfast, and then, of course, to Walden Pond. There's a really great museum here called the Concord Museum. I'd like to get there if I have some time, and then I would love to get down to Salem, Massachusetts to see where the witch trials took place and everything. So I have a lot to do before I have to get my rental car back by 5, so let's get after it. Got my copy of Walden ready to go, so let's go get some food and then we'll head over to the pond. Welcome to Ralph Waldo Emerson's house. So this house right here, this white home, it's a beautiful house, is where Emerson wrote many of his essays and was a resident here in Concord, Massachusetts. Now, I'm not allowed to take my camera in there, which is a bummer because he is one of my big heroes. And I'm right on a main road right now, so I apologize for the car noise. But that is Emerson's house. I'm going to walk you over there. And then across the street is the Concord Museum. I'm going to go in there as well. I know I can't take cameras into Emerson's house. Hopefully I can into the museum. But let's go look at Emerson's house because it's absolutely beautiful. And what's going to be nice about the Concord Museum is they've got several items in there of Thoreau's. So they've got the actual writing desk that he used to write Walden on, as well as civil disobedience and a few other things. It's a very small, very unassuming writing desk, which is incredible to think that some of the greatest written works were written on such a poor piece of furniture. It sort of inspires me to think that I don't need the biggest and the best of everything in order to do my best work. I can simply just put the work in and be dedicated to my craft, and if I am, then I can create something worth having. But this is Emerson's home right here. How beautiful is this? So again, I can't take my camera in there, unfortunately. It's $15 to go in. I'm going to pay the cost, and then there's a tour. It's about 45 minutes. Then I'll head across the street to the museum. Hopefully I can take you in there with me. Well, that was an epic fail. So everything in Concord seems to be closed Monday to Thursday. It's really open Thursday to Sunday, I think. Probably because of tourism. It makes total sense. It stinks for me because I'm out here on a business trip and I'm only here today, which is Tuesday. So the Emerson house was closed. I'm hoping the Concord Museum is open. Let's go check it out. So right off the bat, you guys, right in this museum, this is the chair that Emerson sat in to write his essay, Nature. This is an incredible essay about sort of the divinity that lives within every individual and how you have the ability to find your purpose in life through nature. Anyway, the quote up here says, "Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you." It's just crazy to me that he sat in this chair and wrote that incredible essay. Now, right next to it is a teapot used by Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women. So she mentioned that this teapot is what she would use to bring her comfort during the war. It's wild that she, used this on a daily basis. I can imagine her making tea with this as she's writing and trying to make sense of the world. She had a beautiful quote up here. It says, "I said my prayers as I went rushing through the country white with tents, all alive with patriotism, and already red with blood." And then, of course, my favorite is Thoreau. Anything related to Thoreau, he is one of my heroes. This is the key and the lock that kept him prisoner. So if you don't know his story, he went to prison for choosing not to pay taxes because he felt it was unjust to pay taxes to a country that supported slavery. So he was put into jail for the night because of that. And that is what inspired him to write the essay Civil Disobedience, which inspired Gandhi and Dr. King and several others to fight for what is right by being civilly disobedient. And the quote up here is wonderful. It says, "Under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also prison." So yes, he definitely stood up for what was right. So here is a copy of Uncle Tom's Cabin written by Harriet Beecher Stowe in 1852. I'm not sure if this is an original copy or not, but it is absolutely beautiful. This book, of course, was transformational in helping many of the white readers understand the conflict of slavery and begin to support the abolitionist movement. Now, right above this is a figurine that was kept on Thoreau's parlor, in his parlor, and it was to signal their support of abolition. So the title here, the tag next to it says, "According to the family lore, it was given to Thoreau as a gift from a formerly enslaved man escaping to Canada to thank him for his assistance in finding his way to freedom." You might not know this, but Thoreau often helped escaped slaves in his cabin in the woods to recuperate, to regain strength, and find their way into free territory. It's pretty great. Some distinguished visitors over here. Of course, Frederick Douglass, who's one of my absolute heroes, who took the meaning of self-education to a whole new level and found his freedom because of it. So how incredible is this? This says right here about the study. In 1930, the Ralph Waldo Emerson Memorial Association moved the furnishings of Emerson's study to the Concord Museum here so that people could visit the study year-round. All of the artifacts in this room are originals. They are displayed exactly as they were during Emerson's lifetime. You've got a picture of Emerson here working, and if you come in, this is exactly as it would be Emerson's study. Can you guys imagine sitting in this room discussing literature, essays, ideas? This is more than a museum to me, you guys. This is breathtaking. Okay, guys, this is it. This is the desk that Thoreau would sit at to write all of his papers. Look how simple it is. That's what I love about this. It's not a big grand desk. It's not $1 million. He spent $1 or $2 on it. Very simple thing. You can see where his arms wore away the finish and the key into the hole. He didn't need a lot, but with what he had, he created everything. Because of this desk, he was able to inspire future thinkers like Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is Thoreau's flute. If you look, you can see his name carved into the side there. This is the actual bed that he slept on in Walden Cabin and the chair that he would sit at in the cabin. There wasn't much space in there. I'll take you to a replica of the cabin soon once we leave the museum here. But most of that stuff is a replica. This is the actual thing. Okay, wow. That museum was incredible. If you like Transcendentalism, Thoreau, Emerson, Alcott, Hawthorne, any of those guys, come to the Concord Museum and check it out. They've got the most, the largest collection of sort of Thoreau artifacts. And again, Emerson's house is right across the street. So what an incredible place. But now I'm going to take you to Walden Pond and we'll go read some Walden. So up here is a replica of Thoreau's cabin. It's not the real one, of course. But it is a replica, size and shape. He had a really small room with a window on either side. He actually writes about how he could often, or most likely, reach out and touch both sides of the cabin. The whole point here, you guys, is that he did not need a lot of space in which to write and do his work. He just needed a place to do his work. This reminds me of Virginia Woolf's essay, A Room of One's Own, which she makes the argument that back in her day, women were prevented from being great writers and doing the art that they loved because they were thought to be uneducated and were repressed from their ability to do so. And she argues that if a woman could just have a room of her own and a desk upon which to write, she too could write something great. So this is Thoreau's room of his own, at least a replica of it. On the left-hand side, you'll see a replica of his bed. This is the bed that we saw in the museum. So this, of course, is not the real one, but he has a window on one side, a small green table here, a fireplace for cooking. There's the chair in the corner that we saw at the museum. And then, of course, here is his famous green writing desk. I can't believe we saw the real one, but look how good they've done. They created the keyhole that's all scratched up with the front edge that's all beat up. And of course I can open it, and yeah, he would have kept all of his writing in there. There's a small statue of Thoreau right outside the cabin here. Looks like he's sauntering and he's sort of thinking deeply, right? But if we come back here, there's a really great spot where he would have kept his wood. So this is the other side of the cabin, and you can see this bin here for keeping a stockpile of wood. And of course he writes about his little chimney that he'd made. In the book, he talks about these shingles and how he, in order to save money, he went to a family who had a similar cabin, almost an exact cabin, on their property that they wanted to get rid of. So he bought that board for board and brought that back here and used as much as he could, nails and all, to rebuild this. So Thoreau was a very frugal person. He kept track of every penny. He was not a person of waste. He was a person of nature, and he felt that he could build his own home for very, very little, which he did. And all right, so if I cross the street over here, this is the actual Walden Pond area. So let's go over there next. I've got my book, and we're going to read some of my favorite passages of Walden. Okay, like I said, this is a swimming destination, so there's actually a beach here, and people come and hang out, which I just think is fascinating because it's Tuesday morning, like I said, and people want to come. I just got done talking to a lady who said that she comes out here every day and swims, and then at night she sneaks out and swims out into the middle of the pond under moonlight, because for her it's a way to transcend, and so it's a way for her to sort of connect with what Thoreau was teaching. But this is Walden Pond. We made it, you guys. So let's keep going down on this trail path. There is excuse me, how are you? Good. So I'm actually on an alternate trail path right now because she was telling me that Walden Pond is the highest it's ever been in many years because of weather or what have you. And so it flooded. The original path got flooded. And so they routed us up onto this higher path in order to not damage the trail that's being reconstructed, I suppose. I don't know. But up here further, let me hold this with this hand so you can see the pond. There's Walden. Okay. Look, this is a big pond, you guys. I think when you read it in the book, maybe you feel like it's a small duck pond. It's not. This thing is large, and it's over 100 feet deep, I believe, in the deepest part, which is just great. But she was saying that, yeah, they'll sneak out at night. She was probably mid-60s, I don't know, and she's still coming out and just swimming in the moonlight to be closer to Thoreau. That's just, I don't know. If you've never read Thoreau, I would suggest a couple things. One, he gets very particular about nature and observing things, and the whole point for him is to observe well, to pay attention. So he would come out here and he would spend hours looking at the tadpoles in the lake, or sort of tracking the flight patterns of birds, or whatever it might be, to better understand the changing of seasons and how nature was working. And I think part of that was that he found peace in being present. Instead of being, a mile or so that way in Concord City and trying to impress everybody with how he dressed and how he spoke, he was out here doing what he loved and being present. So the call to you is, what do you love? What is it that you're going to choose to be present for? And how can you turn that into your Walden? You don't have to move away. You don't have to build a cabin in the woods, but you do need to choose to live deliberately. This is the Walden life experience. It is to choose to live deliberately and to do what you love. Now, we all have to work. We all have to make money. Thoreau was no different. He had several jobs when he was living here. One of those, for example, was a school teacher. He would teach the children how to think for themselves. He actually created a different education plan. Instead of following the standard curriculum, he really tried hard to present kids with questions that would make them think. So I love that. Oh, forgive the airplane, sorry. He was also a land surveyor. He knew this land really well, like the back of his hand. So he was hired by people all of the time to lay out property lines and to understand how the land was moving. A lot of people don't know this, but he was also the nanny for Emerson. Emerson had a couple children, and Emerson was a very busy man. He worked hard on his writing and his business, and he was called away for lectures all of the time at like Harvard and other places. So he needed someone to stay at home and help his wife with the kids. And Thoreau was perfect for that. Instead of being caught up in the busyness of life, Thoreau preferred to stay at home with the kids and pick berries from the bushes and talk about the birds. And a lot of people might think that Thoreau was not a very educated man, but in fact he was. He graduated from Harvard. He was very much an intellectual. He just chose to use his intelligence for thinking rather than profit. And I think that's why his message resonates with a lot of people. This is a beautiful view of the lake. We have somebody swimming in the lake there. Lots of people doing their laps. This is just a beautiful place to be. I just want to point out really quickly, Thoreau often wrote about how he had been to there are many lakes or ponds around the area here, and had been to many of them, but for whatever reason, Walden Pond almost called to him. Of all of the locations, Walden Pond was the one that seemed to be the most alive with nature and had its own personality. I can't explain that, but when you come here, you can feel it. Again, being from Utah, I've been around a lot of ponds, and I don't know if it's just because this pond means so much to me because of the book itself and the writing, but it definitely feels like there are just there's wildlife everywhere, that the trees are alive. It feels like the pond itself is alive. I just got done talking with a lady who was swimming in it, and she was just saying how the water has depth, how the current and the temperature and everything changes in ways you don't expect, and how it's like being in something that is living, and how she actually used the word how much of an honor it was for her to swim here. So again, I don't know if it's just because we are assigning meaning because we like the writing, or if in fact Walden Pond has something to say. Large pile of rubble to my left with a sign, and it says, it's quote right from the book Walden, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." That's the big sort of thesis behind Walden. How does a man or woman choose to live deliberately? Because at the end of your life, when you get there, you don't want to realize that you've spent your entire life trying to impress other people, trying to keep up airs and meet society's demands, and had never once done what you wanted to do with your life. So here's a marker, of course. It says Thoreau's house site, an experiment in simplicity and observation. Now we're going to talk about the word simplicity in a minute here. But if I look to the left, this is where the cabin stood. There are, it looks like 9 pillars, little cement pillars chained off to show the size of the cabin. It is not large. And I can walk into this right here on the front pillar. It says site of Thoreau's cabin discovered November 11th, 1945 by Roland Wells Robbins. And on the inside, there is a marker. It says, beneath these stones lies the chimney foundation of Thoreau's cabin, 1845 to 1847. Go thou my incense, let's see, what is this? It says, go thou my incense upward from this hearth. Yeah. Okay. So I'm standing on the exact dirt where Thoreau would have written Walden. He would have looked out his windows to see these trees, and on this side to see these trees. His bean field, I can't remember exactly where it is in relation to the cabin, but I've got to assume it's out here in this open patch of land somewhere where he kept his beans. And then, of course, just down the pathway is Walden Pond. Earlier I mentioned that Thoreau wrote an essay called Walking that talks about the art of walking, and it's something I'm trying to do right now, and I'm having a hard time with it. So he didn't walk, he sauntered. And to saunter means to sort of walk in a spiritual way, right? To go with the only goal of, becoming closer to yourself, getting to know yourself, and getting to know your creator. But I'm having a hard time because I'm thinking about schedules and where I gotta be and making videos and all that stuff. So I want to point out that this takes practice, this concept of calming down and being one with yourself or with nature. but we have to practice it, right? And so I'm bringing you here because I want you guys to see what this place was like. And I'm going to be turning off the camera for a lot of this just so that I can do some reading, because I need to spend time with Thoreau and with my thoughts. Otherwise, this trip will have been a little bit of a waste. And so that's a call to action for all of us, that yeah, it's important to get those important memories on film and on camera so that you can cherish them. But if we're not living in the moment while we're doing it, if we're so busy trying to record it, then we are missing our lives. I don't know about you, but I don't usually go back and watch all my video. I just store it. So just something to think about. All right, I want to take a minute and read some really important passages to you from Walden. So I think one of the sentences, which comes from page 7 in our book that I sell at Edgewater, is this, oh my goodness, you guys got to see this. Look at all the fish that are just starting to show up. You guys see the fish right in front of me? Anyway, okay, so there are several sentences in Walden that really mean a lot to people, and the first one is on page 7 in the title, or in the chapter titled Economy. And he says, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. What Thoreau saw is that people were living their lives every day, day in and day out, on that hamster wheel, and they were just desperate for more. They wanted to live life and to taste life and to be a part of it, but they didn't know how. And so they lived quietly. They kept all that angst and that anger inside of them and just went to work every day. And I think people really connect with that sentence. I know that I do. I've felt quiet desperation at times and have had to choose my way out of it. And so Walden is, again, a call to action, that it is my responsibility to go out and live deliberately. Now on page 61, he talks about how he's going to do this. And he says, for more than 5 years, I've maintained myself thus solely by the labor of my hands. And I found that by working about 6 weeks in a year, I could meet all the expenses of living. So again, Thoreau was a very frugal person, and he discovered that he could whittle his expenses down to nothing. Now, he didn't have a wife and he didn't have kids, and I appreciate that. I have 4 kids and a wife, plus several other obligations. However, he made the choice to cut out all of the unnecessary things in his life so that he could work for just 6 weeks a year and use that income to sustain him the rest of the year so that he could think and write. Now, wherever you're at in life, what can you cut out of your life that's completely unnecessary, but is requiring you to incur expenses that just force you to go to work every day? There's a sentence on page 87 that says, time is the stream I go a-fishing in. I drink at it, but while I drink, I see the sandy bottom and detect how shallow it is. So Thoreau was very aware of the fact that time is continually passing, that he only has so much of it. And when he leans down to drink of that time and to really live well, that's when he realizes how little he has. And so I think a lot of us are scared to do that, to be in the present, because it brings us closer to our mortality. And we think, oh my gosh, I've only got so much left. It's often easier to pretend like things aren't happening, to just hide from the reality. But the truth is, you guys, we could die at any minute, and we need to start living deliberately. On page 82, he says, or he asks the question, why should we live with such hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. There's this constant need to consume and to always have more and more. And Thoreau just knew that that was a never-ending downward spiral. And he's calling people to action and calling them out. He often got under people's skin in Concord society because they didn't want to be told that they were living a superfluous life. They wanted to feel like they were accomplishing something. But Thoreau knew that they in fact weren't. And one day they would die and realize they had wasted their time. Okay, now on page 80 and 81 are probably two of the most quoted parts of Walden, and they're passages that you should know well. It's in the section where I lived. And it says, we read this on the placard back at the house site. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. So again, Thoreau was ultimately terrified of coming to his death and realizing he'd wasted his experience on this life, on this earth. And that gets me thinking, like, what am I doing right now? Because my motto at the Readable Podcast is to read slowly, take notes, apply the ideas. Well, if I'm reading Walden, what's the idea here to apply? It is the question, how do I, Eddie Hood, live deliberately? What do I need to change in my life so that I can wake up every day and do work that I love and be with people that I love? And if I have to go to a job that I don't particularly love, how can I do that well and efficiently so that I could spend the rest of my time living well? I think we're all working so dang hard that by the end of the day, we're tired. And so all we do is sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Thoreau would have a very hard time with that. He would go to work and then he would cherish that free time and use it well. Now, that leads us to the next quote, which is on page 81. He says, "Our life is frittered away by detail. An honest man has hardly need to count more than his 10 fingers, or in extreme cases, he may add his 10 toes and lump the rest." So hold on here. He's saying, look, you think you need lots of stuff to be happy. You think you need big fancy cars and dresses and money and gold and earrings and all of this stuff. But really all you need can probably be counted on your 10 fingers. And in some cases, maybe your 10 toes, right? You don't need as much as you think you need. And then this is the quote that matters. He says, "Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say, let your affairs be as 2 or 3 and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen and keep your accounts on your thumbnail." So he is, as he's pleading with us, he's reaching through this book and he's saying, Eddie, stop adding unnecessary stuff to your life. You have to pay for all this stuff. You have to think about all of this stuff. Hey, that's the train. Okay, sorry to get distracted. I don't know if you heard that or saw that because it happened really quickly, but Thoreau writes about the train tracks all the time and how he could hear them going to and from town. And a lot of people sort of get disillusioned because they think, I thought that Walden Pond was out in the middle of nowhere, when in fact he was only a couple hours walk from Concord. The train tracks were right here. He could get goods and bring them back to his cabin. Again, he was not going to Walden to be a hermit and to be a mountain man like a lot of people sort of honor him for. He was going so that he could get away from all of the unnecessary things and write. He wanted to be a writer. So what do you want to be, and how can you live deliberately? So before I wrap up, if you guys liked this video, go ahead and like and subscribe and leave me a comment because that really helps with the algorithm. I'm trying to build the channel here. I hope you got something out of this video. My biggest message to you is this: when you're reading something, if you can do more than read the book, go to the location, visit the authors, go to their grave sites, go to any historical places you can to learn as much as possible about the books that are changing your life. And as always, remember to read slowly, take notes, and apply the ideas. I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.